For this week's lesson plan for the elementary and special education teachers, I'm going to give a few tips on how to approach this lesson. First, this is 4th grade Science, Chapter 112, 2, Scientific Investigation and Reasoning. The student uses scientific methods during laboratory and outdoor investigations. The students expect to. Now there is an A, a B, a C, and a D. This is E, Part E, and this is the one that you're going to focus on this time, is perform repeated investigations to increase the reliability of results. There are several kinds of experiments that the children can do. I'm going to suggest 3. One is the ruler drop, and you can go to YouTube and do a search for ruler drop, and you will see many examples of testing reaction time. And then you will find some that are comparing boys and girls. There's also the one that I suggested in class, which would be the coin flip. I think I said in class that 3 coins would be good. I've since come to the opinion that 2 coins, a 2-coin flip would be just fine. And you can flip the 2 coins 3 times, and then 10 times, and then 20 times. And then you can check and make up some kind of a bar graph for how many times it came up 2 heads, how many times it came up with 2 tails, and how many times it came up with 1 head and 1 tail. And they do that. You can do that bar graph for the 3 trials, and then for the 10 trials, and then for the 20 trials. And then it would be nice to do a comparison or how the bar graphs look within the group as you increase the number of trials and how they compare to the other groups as well. So you'll have something very visual for them to look at as well as the data they collected. Okay, now here's an explanation, the idea of repeated trials for reliability. This is from Florida. They have their equivalent of the TEKS as well. They have their standards, and this is an introduction to their teachers and gives ideas on how to teach this concept in Florida. You can also use an experiment similar to this one, but I would say instead of doing 3, 10, and 20, I would just say doing 3 and 10 if you're going to do this per group, just because it takes that much longer.
Hello and welcome. Today we will be conducting a lab that teaches students that repeated trials are necessary during testing to obtain accurate data. The name of this lab is Rebound. The materials that you would need for this lab are tennis balls, paper for recording the data, and yardsticks. Now the Sunshine State standards in this lab help students recognize and explain the need for repeated experimental trials. The inquiry question for this lab is, find the rebound ratio of a tennis ball. To calculate the ratio, divide the height of the first drop by the height of the bounce. Plot the height of the rebound versus the initial drop height. The conclusion statement for this lab is, repetition in experiments expose human errors, technical errors, and other uncontrollable variables that may affect data so that they may be eliminated. Most importantly, it makes the results consistent and more reliable, as in the case of the tennis ball. Repeated trials also yield a large enough pool of data to be interpreted through averages, modes, medians, etc. Now on to the lab. First, tell your students that they will be responsible for collecting data to describe the physical attributes of a tennis ball. Break them into groups of 3 and issue them the inquiry question and materials. After 10 minutes, lead a class discussion comparing the students' graphs. Specifically, point out how groups with fewer trials got several answers, but those who did many eventually leveled out to a consistent answer. Some possible questions to ask include, why was it so difficult to use the data the class collected after the first 3 tests to make a statement about the ball's bounce ratio?
Okay, a lot of that they had is the wrapping up and so forth would probably happen at the end of the student practice and as you go into your closure. You can have 5 minutes for your closure or so, and it would be nice to just bring all the data and to see the different graphs, and then you can ask the students what conclusion you come up with from this, and you can make the same statement as you review what they just covered. And you can subscribe to this YouTube channel. This is called the Summit website, and I did experiment repeated trials, and I found this when I did my search on YouTube. There's another website This is from Science Buddies. And this is a nice chart that you might want to show your students as part of your technology, which would be materials from the Science Buddies website that talks about the scientific process. We have key information, ask a question, do background research, construct a hypothesis, test your hypothesis by doing experiment, analyze your data and draw a conclusion and communicate your results. And then overview of the scientific method, and they have that here. And then you can also go down and you can see other information that they have here that will help you as you do experiments in your class.